The trouble began a little before 11 on a Tuesday morning, which was bad timing for anyone who hoped to disturb Nero Wolfe and come away satisfied. Between 11 and 1 he gave himself to the orchids, and if a man had arrived carrying the lost crown jewels in one hand and a certified check in the other, I'd have told him to sit down and improve his character in silence. That morning I was at my desk in the office, pretending to bring order to correspondence that had no desire to be ordered. Wolfe had already mounted to the plant rooms, and Fritz was in the kitchen. The front bell rang. I went to answer it with the charitable assumption that someone had merely come to the wrong house. She was not the wrong house type. She was about 35, perhaps a year more, yet wearing a grey suit that had cost enough to make a bookkeeper blink, and a small black hat set at the angle women use when they have decided the world is manageable if they keep their chin up. Her face was composed, but not naturally. It looked arranged in a hurry over something frayed. "Yes," I said. "Mr. Goodwin?" I admitted it. "My name is Clara Vane. I must see Nero Wolfe at once." "Must" is a strong word in this house. Mr. Wolfe is occupied. "I know his schedule. That is why I came before noon. If I wait until afternoon, I may lose the only advantage I have left." That was better than most callers manage. Usually they begin by claiming murder, blackmail, or conscience. She offered advantage, which suggested either intelligence or practice. "Come in," I said. I took her to the office and indicated the red leather chair that has received more liars per square foot than any other seat in New York. She sat without fidgeting. I sat behind my desk and watched her gloves. People tell on themselves with gloves. They tug them, twist them, smooth them, or forget them. She folded hers once and laid them on her bag. "Now," I said, "suppose you tell me why the Republic trembles." "It is not the Republic. It is my brother." There it was. Family trouble. 9 times out of 10 it either means money or a corpse, and often both. I nodded for more. "My brother is Julian Vane. He is senior partner in Vane and Bletchley, importers. Last night, at a dinner in his apartment, he announced that a certain antique knife on his dining table had been stolen. Antique knives do get around. It had not been stolen. It never left the table. That got my attention enough to stop rocking my chair. She went on. There were 6 people present. My brother, his partner, Leonard Bletchley, Bletchley's niece, Paula, a man named Edwin Tarp, who handles shipping contracts, myself, and a guest of my brother's, Victor Sloane. Julian said the knife had belonged to our grandfather and that it had vanished between the fish and the roast. He accused no one directly, but he made it plain that one of us had taken it. "And had one of you?" "No." "You sound certain." "I am certain because I saw it again after everyone had gone." I leaned back. "Where?" "On the table, exactly where it had been." That should have cheered you. It would have, if my brother had not been dead this morning. That was the point where the room changed shape a little. Not much. Now, you get used to death in our line, but it still has a way of reaching out and straightening your necktie. "How?" I asked. "He fell from the stair landing in his apartment house a little after 8. The police say it may have been an accident. I know better." "Because of the knife?" "Because of what he meant to do today. He intended to expose someone. He told me so after the others left. He said the knife was only a test." I let that sit a moment. "What sort of test?" "He didn't explain. He only said that a person who will move one thing on a table to see whether it is noticed will move other things too, eventually. Then he laughed, and I did not like it." I didn't like it either. "You came here instead of the police," I said. "Why?" "Because the police will look for force." "Mr. Nice Wolfe looks for intention." I was still turning that over when I heard the elevator door above and the measured thunder that meant Wolfe descending from the plant rooms. Clara Vane heard it too and lifted her head. I told her, "You may be in luck," or the opposite. With Wolfe, those sometimes look alike at first. Wolfe entered the office with the air of a man who has just concluded a civilized conversation with orchids and is annoyed to find himself back among mammals. His eyes moved from me to Clara Vane and stopped there, not because she was attractive, which she was in a composed way, but because she did not rise. Wolfe notices such things. "Archie," he said, "why is there a stranger in my office at this hour?" "Because she rang the bell and I opened the door," I told him. "Miss Clara Vane. She has a problem involving a knife that didn't go anywhere and a brother who did." Wolfe lowered himself into his chair, arranged his bulk, and closed his eyes for a fraction of a second as if filing away a nuisance for later attention. Then he opened them and looked at her again. "Madame," he said, "you have chosen an inconvenient hour." "I'm aware of that, Mr. Wolfe," she said. "I'm also aware that convenience is a luxury I no longer possess." "Few do," he murmured. "Proceed." She repeated what she had told me, but not as a repetition. She sharpened it. Some people grow vaguer the second time. She grew precise. The dinner, the 6 guests, the knife placed beside Julian Vane's plate, the announcement that it had vanished, the strained silence, the awkward dispersal, her lingering after the others left, and in the moment when she saw the knife still lying where it had been all along. Wolfe listened with his fingers together and his eyes half-lidded, the way he does when he is building a structure out of words and doesn't want them to collapse from unnecessary motion. When she finished, he said, "You assert that your brother intended to expose someone today. On what basis?" "He told me so. People say many things after dinner. He was not drunk. He was intent. He said he had learned something about one of the others, something that would end an association. He would not say more." "Did you ask which one?" "Yes." "And?" "He said that if I did not already know, I was better off remaining ignorant until the proper moment." Wolfe's lips tightened. He dislikes being reminded that other people have secrets they choose not to share. "And this morning, he is dead," Wolfe said. "You believe his death is connected to this experiment with the knife?" "Yes. Explain your reasoning." She leaned forward slightly, not pleading, just aligning herself with the argument. The knife was not stolen. It was moved, or supposed to have been moved, to provoke a reaction. My brother wished to see who would betray anxiety, who would overcompensate, who would attempt to conceal something that had not yet been revealed. He was watching them. One of them realized it. "And therefore pushed him down a stair?" Wolfe asked, dry as chalk. "Or arranged for it," she said, "or frightened him into misstep. Julian was not careless. He would not fall." Wolfe grunted. "Assertions, not proofs?" "I am asking you for proofs." Wolfe turned his head to me. "Archie, have you any preliminary insights? Or shall I dismiss this as a melodrama unsupported by fact?" "I've got a knife that never left a table," I said, "and a man who never falls deciding to fall the morning after he announces a parlor trick. If that's melodrama, it's got good bones." Wolfe returned his gaze to her. "Names," he said. "You mentioned 5 other persons present. List them with care." She did. Leonard Bletchley, partner in the firm, a man of 50 with a habit of agreeing too quickly. Paula Bletchley, his niece, 28, who handled correspondence and accounts with an efficiency that bordered on zeal. Edwin Tarp, mid-40s, responsible for shipping contracts, who had a reputation for closing deals that others avoided. Victor Sloan, an independent consultant whose exact function seemed to depend on who was paying him that week. And herself. Wolfe nodded slightly at each name as if pinning them to an invisible board. "Relationships," he said. My brother trusted Bletchley as far as business required. He admired Paula's competence, but did not confide in her. Tarp was useful and resented it. Sloan was new to the circle. I do not know him well. "And you?" Wolfe asked. "I am his sister." "That is not a relationship, it is a condition," Wolfe said. "What was your position in his affairs?" "I advised him when he asked. I disagreed with him when necessary. He did not always listen." "Few men do," Wolfe said. What of money? There is money, she said. There is always money. Wolfe's eyes flicked to me again. He knew I would follow that up later. Did anyone leave the table during dinner? He asked. No, she said. Not during the courses. There was a moment after Julian's announcement when Paula rose to fetch wine, but she returned almost immediately. The others remained seated. And the knife, Wolfe said. Describe it. A small carving knife. Old. The handle was ivory, slightly yellowed with a narrow crack near the base. The blade was thin and well kept. It lay to Julian's right. And after the announcement? It lay there still. I'm certain. Wolfe made a small sound in his throat that might have meant satisfaction or irritation. With him, the two often traveled together. Very well, he said. You have presented a situation containing an anomaly and a death. Both may be explained by stupidity, which is abundant, or by design, which is rarer and therefore more interesting. I will consider it. She did not move. I'm asking you to do more than consider it. Madam, Wolfe said, you're asking me to involve myself in a police matter on the basis of conjecture. I am asking you to prevent a mistake, she said. If the police decide it was an accident, the person who understood Julian's test will be free to continue. Wolfe's gaze sharpened a degree. He dislikes continuity in crime almost as much as he dislikes being interrupted at 11. What fee do you propose? He asked. Whatever you require. Dangerous, he said. Archie, note that. I've noted it, I said. Wolfe settled deeper into his chair. I will accept, he said, on the condition that you do not withhold information, that you submit to questioning without evasion, and that you understand I do not guarantee results that will please you. I understand, she said. Good. Archie will accompany you to your brother's residence. He will observe, inquire, and report. I will remain here, where thought is possible. I got up. Clara Vane rose with me. As we moved toward the hall, Wolfe said, Archie. I turned. The knife, he said. It did not leave the table. That's the story, I said. Then either the table moved, he said, or the truth did. I went out with Clara Vane, thinking that if the truth had moved, someone had given it a shove, and I intended to find out who had the nerve to do it. We took a cab uptown, and Clara Vane spent most of the ride looking out the window as if the city might rearrange itself into something more cooperative if she stared at it long enough. I let her alone. When a person has just handed you a dead brother and a puzzle, silence is often the best way to let the pieces settle. The building was one of those respectable midtown structures that try to look older than they are by cultivating a discreet gloom. The doorman knew her and gave me a quick sizing up that stopped just short of objection. We rode up in an elevator that had opinions about speed but kept them to itself. The apartment door was open. A uniformed officer stood just inside, with the look of a man who had been told to keep people out and had decided to interpret that as keeping trouble in. Clara gave her name. He glanced at me. Goodwin, I said. Nero Wolfe's office. That earned me a second look and a small shift in posture. Wolfe's name does that in certain circles. It suggests inconvenience to those who prefer things tidy. Lieutenant's inside, he said. Don't touch anything. I never do, I told him, which was true if you ignored the times when I did. The living room was large, well furnished, and arranged with the kind of care that says the owner likes control but not clutter. There were two men near the far wall. One was in plain clothes with the face of a man who has learned to distrust furniture. The other was making notes. Clara said, Lieutenant, this is Archie Goodwin. The plainclothes man turned. Kramer, he said. I was wondering when Wolfe would send you. Good morning, Inspector, I said. I was wondering when you'd get here first. He grunted. We usually do. Usually, I agreed. He looked at Clara. "You've told him your theory?" "I have told him what I know," she said. Kramer's eyes came back to me. And what do you know?" "That a man who announces a trick at dinner and dies the next morning deserves a second look," I said. "Where did it happen?" "In the stairwell," he said. "Between the 4th and 3rd floors. He lived on 5. No witnesses. A tenant heard a noise. He was found at the bottom, neck broken." "Any signs of a push?" "Nothing conclusive. No marks that say hands. No scuffle. Could have slipped." "Could have," I said. Kramer watched me a second longer, then jerked his head toward the dining room. "You're here. You look, but you don't get in my way." "I wouldn't dream of it," I said. Clara led me in. The dining room was set as if dinner had just been interrupted by a polite catastrophe. The tablecloth was white, the silver placed with care, and 6 chairs stood where they had been last night. There was a faint smell of wine and something richer that had already begun to fade. "The table," she said quietly. I moved around it slowly. 6 places. Plates cleared. Glasses still there. A decanter at one end. And beside the place that had to be Julian Vane's, to the right of where his plate had been, lay a small carving knife with an ivory handle. I stopped. "That's it," she said. "Looks like it never went on vacation," I said. It didn't. I bent slightly, not touching, just looking. The handle had a hairline crack near the base, just as she had said. The blade was clean, not recently used for anything dramatic. It lay parallel to the edge of the table, aligned with the other utensils as if it had been placed with intention and then left alone. "Walk me through it," I said. From the moment he spoke. She did, as they had been finishing the fish. Conversation had been ordinary. Business, a little gossip, nothing sharp. Then Julian had set down his fork, looked at each of them in turn, and said that something had been removed from the table. He had indicated the knife. There was a pause, she said. No one spoke. Leonard Bletchley smiled as if expecting a joke. Paula looked confused. Top frowned. Sloane said nothing. I said that the knife was there. "And was it?" I asked. I believed it was, but Julian insisted it was not. He said that one of us had taken it and that he would prefer its return without embarrassment. And no one moved. No one reached for anything. After a moment, he laughed. He said perhaps he had been mistaken. We resumed dinner, but it was different. Different how? Careful. Everyone was aware of being observed. By him. Yes, and by each other, I said. She nodded. Who left the table first? Paula, to fetch wine. She was gone perhaps half a minute. Anyone else stand? No. Did anyone touch the table? Adjust anything? I do not recall. Recall harder, I said. She closed her eyes briefly. Top moved his glass. Leonard adjusted his napkin. Sloane leaned back in his chair and then forward again. Nothing more. After dinner, they left, one by one, Leonard and Paula together, Top next, Sloane last. I remained with Julian. And that's when he told you about the test. Yes. And you saw the knife. Yes. I straightened. The room was quiet in the way rooms get when they have been looked at too much and still haven't decided to give anything up. Kramer came to the doorway. Find anything? He asked. I found a knife that behaves itself, I said. Do you mind if I talk to the doorman and the elevator operator? Go ahead, he said, but keep it simple. I always do, I told him. Out in the hall, I asked Clara, who has keys to this place besides your brother? Leonard Bletchley, and Paula for work. No one else? No. Anyone could have come in after dinner. The doorman would have seen them. Unless he didn't, I said. We rode down. The doorman remembered the guests. Bletchley and his niece left together a little after 10. Top followed. Sloane left around 10:30. No one had returned. Anyone come in later? I asked. Not that I saw, he said. Mr. Vane came in around midnight, alone. From where? Couldn't say. I nodded and went to find the elevator operator, and who confirmed the same in fewer words. Back upstairs, I stood once more in the dining room and looked at the knife. It lay there, quiet as a lie that had decided to become the truth if no one argued with it. Clara said, "What do you think?" "I think your brother set a trap," I said, "and I think someone stepped in it without leaving a footprint." "And his death?" "I think it wasn't about falling," I said. "It was about timing." I took one more look at the table, then turned for the door. "Let's go tell Wolfe that his table may not have moved, but something else did, and it's still pretending it didn't." We reached the brownstone a little after 1, which meant I had the pleasure of interrupting Wolfe's lunch if I moved fast enough. I did. Fritz gave me a look that suggested I was tampering with civilization, but he let me through. Wolfe was at the table, installed behind a spread that could have persuaded a saint to reconsider his vows. He glanced up as I entered, and if he was annoyed, he concealed it behind a slice of roast and a question. "Well?" I sat. "The knife is still on the table," I said, "right where Miss Vane says it never stopped being." "Phooey," he said mildly. "You have verified the obvious. What of the less obvious?" "Kramer's calling it a fall. No marks, no witnesses, just a broken neck in a stairwell. The doorman and elevator man say no one came back after the guests left. Vane himself returned around midnight, alone." Wolfe cut another piece of meat with deliberation. "And the guests?" "I haven't seen them yet. But I have their names and a layout of the dinner. 6 at the table, including Vane. He announces the knife is gone. Nobody moves. He backs off, calls it a mistake. Dinner continues, but everybody starts watching everybody else. An elementary experiment in discomfort," Wolfe said. "Continue. After dinner, they leave one by one. Miss Vane stays. He tells her it was a test, says he's identified something about one of them, plans to expose it today. This morning he's dead." Wolfe chewed, swallowed, and reached for his beer. "And you conclude?" "I conclude that the knife wasn't the point. The reactions were. Somebody gave themselves away, and Vane knew it. That somebody had 12 hours to decide what to do about it." "And chose murder?" Wolfe asked. "Or something close enough to count," I said. Wolfe wiped his lips and leaned back slightly. "Archie, you're describing motive without mechanism. I require both." "Working on it?" I said. "There's another angle. And the knife never left the table, but Vane claimed it had. Either he was mistaken, which doesn't fit the rest, or he lied to provoke a reaction. That means he needed something that could be missing without actually moving." "A fiction," Wolfe said. "A contrived absence." "Right, and everyone at the table had to accept the possibility that it might be gone, at least for a second, enough to react." Wolfe nodded once. "Which of them is most susceptible to such a prod?" "That's what I get to find out," I said. He picked up his fork again. "You will find them all susceptible in different ways. Fear, guilt, vanity, and stupidity respond to stimulus with admirable reliability." "Comforting," I said. Clara Vane had remained in the office, and I went back to her. She rose when I entered, as if she had been measuring the time by the sound of Wolfe's chewing. "He has agreed to proceed?" she asked. "He has agreed to think," I said. "Which is the same thing, but slower." "I prefer slow certainty to quick error," she said. "Then you're in the right place," I told her. "We're going to talk to your dinner guests." "Now?" "Now," I said, "while they're still deciding what version of last night they like best." She hesitated. "They will not speak freely to me, present." "They don't have to speak freely," I said. "They just have to speak." We started with Leonard Bletchley. His office was downtown, a suite that tried to look modest and failed by a margin of polished wood and discreet expense. He received us with a smile that had been practiced long enough to survive most occasions. "Miss Vane," he said. "And this is Archie Goodwin," I supplied. "I work for Nero Wolfe." That adjusted his smile a fraction. "I see," he said. "This is about Julian." "It is," I said. "You were at dinner last night." "Yes." "And you heard him say the knife was missing." "I did," he said. An odd moment. "How did you take it?" "As a jest," he said promptly. Julian enjoyed unsettling people. "Did he?" I asked. "Did he enjoy it enough to do it without a point?" Bletchley's smile thinned. I couldn't say what his point was. "Did you notice anything else?" I said. "Anyone behaving unusually?" "We were all behaving unusually," he said. "He had just accused us of theft." "Without naming anyone," I said. "That hardly improves matters." "Did you believe the knife was gone?" "For a moment," he said. Then I saw it was not." "How soon?" "Almost immediately." "Before or after Paula left for wine?" He blinked. "After, I think." "You think?" I said. "It was not a significant detail," he said a little sharper. "Everything is a significant detail," I said. "That's why we have so many of them." I asked him about his relationship with Vane, about business, about Tarp and Sloane, about Paula. He answered without hesitation, which is often worse than hesitation. He liked Tarp for his results, distrusted Sloane for his flexibility, and praised Paula with the cautious pride of a man who knows he owes his efficiency to someone younger. "Did Julian have any reason to expose you?" I asked. "Certainly not," he said. "Did he have reason to expose anyone else at that table?" He spread his hands. "In business, one always has reasons. Whether they are sufficient is another matter." I left him with his smile intact but thinner, and we went to find Paula Bletchley. She was in a smaller office, efficient in appearance and manner. She listened to my questions with the attention of someone who files information as it comes in and labels it for later use. "The knife," she said. "Yes, it was there." "You're sure?" "Yes." "Did you think it might not be?" "For a second," she said. "That was the point, wasn't it?" "Was it?" I said. She met my eyes. "Julian liked to see how people reacted." "And how did you react?" "I went for more wine," she said. "Convenient," I said. "Practical," she corrected. "Did you touch the table when you came back?" "No." "Did anyone?" "Not that I saw." "Did you notice anyone watching you?" I asked. She allowed herself a small smile. "No, everyone was watching everyone." "Did you notice anyone watching more closely than the rest?" She considered. "Mr. Sloane," she said. "He seemed attentive." "To you?" "To all of us," she said. "But yes, to me in particular." I filed that. When we left her, Clara said quietly, "You think one of them understood the test?" "I think one of them understood something," I said. "And your brother understood that they understood. And that is why he is dead." "That's one way to read it," I said. "There are others." "Which do you prefer?" "I prefer the one that explains everything," I said. "We'll see which one that is." We still had Tarp and Sloane to visit, and I had the feeling that somewhere between them and the table where a knife had never gone missing, the truth had decided to sit down and wait for us to notice it. As we found Edwin Tarp in a building that smelled faintly of oil and ambition, the kind of place where contracts are discussed with one eye on the door and the other on the numbers. His office was spare, not from taste, but from preference. A desk, 2 chairs, a filing cabinet that had seen better manners, and Tarp himself behind the desk, looking as if he had been expecting someone but hadn't decided who. He didn't rise when we entered. He looked at Clara, then at me. "Miss Vane," he said. "And?" "Archie Goodwin," I told him. "Nero Wolfe's office." That got me a flicker. Not respect, not fear, just calculation adjusting itself by a degree. "What can I do for Mr. Wolfe?" he asked. "Answer questions," I said. "You were at dinner last night?" "Yes." "Mr. Vane said a knife had been taken from the table." "He did." "And you?" "I thought he was mistaken," Tarp said. "Or playing a game." "Did you see the knife?" "Yes." "Before or after he said it was gone?" "After," he said without hesitation. "Right away?" "Within a second or two." "Long enough to think it might be missing?" "No." "Not even for a second?" "No. I watched him. He didn't shift. Some men are good at lying because they believe what they're saying while they say it. Others are good because they've practiced not believing anything at all." Tarp had the second look. "Did anyone leave the table?" I asked. "Miss Bletchley," he said. "For wine." "And when she returned?" "Everything was as it had been," he said. "Did anyone touch the table?" I said. "Not that I noticed." "Did you notice anything at all?" I asked. Sent gave me a thin smile. "Mr. Goodwin, I noticed that Mr. Vane had created an awkward moment for his guests. I noticed that he enjoyed it less than he expected, and I noticed that everyone present would remember it." "Why would they remember it?" I asked. "Because being accused of theft leaves an impression," he said. "Even when the accusation is withdrawn?" "Especially then," he said. "Why especially then?" "Because it suggests the accuser has seen something he is not prepared to explain," Tarp said. "That bother you?" I asked. "It interested me," he said. "Did it worry you?" "No." "Did you think he was going to expose something?" Tarp's eyes narrowed a fraction. "He said nothing of the sort to me." "But you thought it," I said. "I thought he was testing us," Tarp said. "As whether he had anything to reveal is another matter." "And this morning he's dead," I said. "Yes." "Convenient," I said. "For whom?" he asked. "That's what we're finding out," I said. He leaned back. "Mr. Goodwin, if you're suggesting that I had anything to do with Mr. Vane's death, you're wasting your time." "I'm not suggesting anything," I said. "I'm collecting." "Collect something useful," he said. "I intend to," I said. We left him with his spare office and his careful answers, and I had the feeling that if he had been lying, he had done it in a way that would hold up under inspection. That didn't clear him. It just made him more work. Victor Sloane was easier to find and harder to read. He was in a hotel suite that looked temporary and expensive, and the kind of place where a man can stay long enough to make money and leave before anyone asks too many questions. He opened the door himself, took one look at Clara, and then at me. "I was expecting you," he said. "That's efficient," I told him. "May we come in?" "Of course." The room was neat without being tidy. Papers on a table, a briefcase open, a drink poured but not yet touched. He indicated chairs. We sat. "You were at dinner," I said. "Yes." "You heard Mr. Vane say the knife was gone." "I did." "And?" "I thought it was a trick," he said. "What kind of trick?" "The kind that tells you more about the audience than the performer," he said. "Did it tell you anything?" I asked. He smiled slightly. "It told me that Mr. Vane enjoyed control." "And that bothered you?" "It amused me," he said. "Did you see the knife?" I asked. Yes." "When?" "Immediately," he said. "No hesitation?" "No." "No moment when you thought it might not be there?" "No." "Everyone else had one," I said. "Then everyone else is less observant," he said. "Or more honest," I said. He didn't answer that. "Miss Bletchley left the table," I said. "For wine?" "Yes." "And when she returned?" "The knife was where it had always been," he said. "Did anyone touch it?" I asked. "No." "Did you?" "No." "Did you see anyone else?" "No." "Did you notice anything at all?" I asked. He took a moment as if deciding how much to give away. I noticed that Miss Bletchley was being watched, he said. By whom? By everyone, he said, but by Mr. Vane most of all. And by you, I said. Yes, he said. Why? Because she was the only one who moved, he said. And movement invites interpretation. What did you interpret? I asked. That she was either the least concerned or the most, he said. Which? I hadn't decided, he said. And now? I asked. Now it doesn't matter, he said. Mr. Vane is dead. Things still matter, I said. They just matter differently. He inclined his head. Perhaps. I stood. Thank you, Mr. Sloane. As we reached the door, he said, Mr. Goodwin. I turned. If Mr. Wolfe is involved, he said, tell him that whatever Mr. Vane was testing, he was not the only one conducting experiments. That sounds like a warning, I said. It's an observation, he said. We left him with his unfinished drink. In the cab back to the brownstone, Clara was quiet again. I let her be until we were halfway downtown. They all say the same thing, she said. That the knife was there. They would, I said. It was. Then what did Julian see? She asked. That's the question, I said. Or maybe the better question is what he wanted them to think he saw. And someone understood, she said. Someone understood enough to get nervous, I said. And nervous people do things. Like killing him. Like making sure he didn't get to today, I said. And the knife? She asked. The knife is still sitting on that table, I said. Which means whatever moved last night wasn't metal. What was it? She asked. Position, I said. Someone shifted position and your brother noticed. And that is enough to kill for, she said. It depends on what position they were in, I said. When we reached the brownstone, I had a full set of answers that didn't quite fit together yet, which is how Wolfe likes them. But I was looking forward to watching him take them apart and put them back together in a way that would make someone very uncomfortable. Because somewhere between a knife that never left a table and a man who never missed a step until he did, there was a move that had been made, and the person who made it was hoping no one would ever call it. Wolfe was in the office when we returned, installed behind his desk with a book open and his expression arranged to suggest that nothing in the world had happened worth interrupting him. He closed the book when I came in, which was his way of admitting that something had. Well, Archie, he said. I gave it to him straight through, from Bletchley's careful ease to Paula's efficiency, Tarp's controlled answers, and Sloane's selective observations. Clara sat without speaking, her eyes moving from me to Wolfe and back again, measuring how much of her brother's last evening we were reconstructing and how much we were still missing. When I finished, Wolfe leaned back and closed his eyes, assembling. 4 witnesses, he said at last, each denying the possibility of error, each asserting immediate perception of the knife's presence, each minimizing deviation, yet all admit to a moment of uncertainty instigated by the victim. This is consistent. Consistently unhelpful, I said. No, Wolfe said. Consistently instructive. The value lies in what they omit. They omit nothing, I said. They all say the knife was there. Precisely, Wolfe said. They agree on a fact that is irrelevant. I looked at him. Irrelevant. The knife's presence or absence is not the issue, Wolfe said. Because the issue is the perception of its absence. Mr. Vane created a condition in which each person at the table was compelled to consider the possibility that an object had been removed without their awareness. That is not a trivial exercise. It is a violation of confidence. Confidence in what? I asked. In their own observation, Wolfe said. In the reliability of their surroundings, in their control. And one of them didn't like that, I said. One of them could not afford it, Wolfe corrected. Clara leaned forward. You believe one of them had already been moving things? That Julian's test exposed a habit? Possibly, Wolfe said. Or a pattern, or a single prior act that could not withstand scrutiny. Such as? I asked. Wolfe opened his eyes. That is what we must determine. I moved to my desk and sat. Here's something, I said. They all insist they saw the knife immediately after he claimed it was gone. No hesitation, no doubt, except Miss Vane, who admits to a moment of uncertainty. The others don't. Indeed, Wolfe said. An overcorrection. When a man is accused of failing to observe, he is inclined to assert that he observed perfectly. It is vanity masquerading as certainty. So one of them is lying about that moment, I said. At least one, Wolfe said. Perhaps more. But one lies for a reason that extends beyond pride. Clara said, Paula left the table. She was the only one who moved. Yes, Wolfe said. Movement invites suspicion, but it also invites deflection. If guilt exists, it may be convenient to attach it to motion. You think she's a target, not a culprit? I said. I think she is an axis, Wolfe said, Mars round which attention revolves. Everyone watched her, I said. Sloane said so, and he watched her too. Wolfe nodded. Sloane interests me. Because he's new, I said. Because he acknowledges observation, Wolfe said. The others deny it or minimize it. He admits to watching. That suggests either confidence or indifference. Or skill, I said. Possibly, Wolfe said. Clara said, What about Mr. Tarp? He denies uncertainty entirely, Wolfe said. That is implausible. Therefore, it is deliberate. So he's lying, I said. He is adjusting, Wolfe said. Whether that adjustment conceals guilt or merely temperament remains to be seen. And Bletchley? I asked. Bletchley is cautious, Wolfe said. He answers quickly but without depth. He is a man who prefers surfaces. Which leaves Paula and Sloane, I said. Yes, and Tarp, Wolfe said. Do not exclude him prematurely. Exclusion is a luxury we have not yet earned. I leaned back. All right. We've got 4 suspects, 1 dead man, and a knife that didn't move. What's next? Wolfe steepled his fingers. We alter the conditions. How? We replicate the test, Wolfe said. Clara stared at him. You mean? Yes, Wolfe said. We invite them here. We recreate the circumstances of the dinner insofar as possible, and we introduce a similar anomaly. And watch what happens, I said. Precisely, Wolfe said. Under controlled conditions, with observation directed rather than diffused. They won't come, Clara said. Not all of them. They will, Wolfe said. Curiosity, fear, and obligation will suffice. You will invite them. So you will say that you wish to clarify matters before the police reach conclusions that may be inconvenient. You will mention my name. That usually helps, I said. And if they refuse, she asked. They will not, Wolfe said. But if one does, that refusal will be instructive. I got up. I'll make the calls. Not yet, Wolfe said. There is one more consideration. I paused. Which is? The knife, Wolfe said. It remained on the table. Yet Mr. Vane claimed it was absent. Therefore, either he lied, or he perceived absence where there was none. He lied to provoke them, I said. Perhaps, Wolfe said. But consider the alternative. Suppose he did not lie. Suppose for a moment that he believed the knife was absent. That would make him wrong, I said. Yes, Wolfe said. But a man like Mr. Vane is not often wrong about objects directly before him. Therefore, if he believed it absent, something altered his perception. Like what? I said. Like attention, Wolfe said. Or distraction, or substitution. Substitution, I said. Wolfe nodded. If an object is replaced with an identical one, its presence is preserved while its identity is altered. I stared at him. You think the knife might not be the same knife? I think it is a possibility, Wolfe said, one that would justify Mr. Vane's reaction. And if he realized it later, I said slowly, he'd know someone had switched it. Yes, Wolfe said. And that someone would know that he knew. Clara's voice was tight. And that is enough to kill for. It is sufficient, Wolfe said. I let out a breath. So now we're looking for someone who could swap a knife in plain sight, us or close to it, and count on no one noticing. Or noticing too late, Wolfe said. And we bring them here and see who notices again, I said. Wolfe inclined his head. You begin to understand. I went to the phone. As I dialed the first number, I had the feeling that we were about to set a table where something would move without moving, and this time someone would forget to pretend they hadn't seen it. Getting them all to agree was easier than it had any right to be, which told me more than any of their answers had. Bletchley accepted with polite reluctance that didn't quite hide curiosity. Paula agreed at once. Tarp hesitated just long enough to register caution, then said yes. Sloane said he would be interested to see how Mr. Wolfe arranged his furniture. By 6 that evening, they were all in the office, along with Clara Vane, as seated in a loose semicircle that had the feel of a performance about to begin, though no one had yet admitted they were actors. Wolfe had insisted on using the office rather than the dining room. He said it was because he preferred his chair. I suspected it was because he preferred control. Fritz had provided coffee, which no one drank. I took my place at my desk, a notebook open, though I didn't intend to write much. Watching would be enough. Wolfe entered last and took his chair, settling into it as if it had been waiting all day to receive him. He looked at them in turn, not hurriedly, not searchingly, just establishing that they were there and that he knew it. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, you have been invited here because Mr. Julian Vane is dead, and because events preceding his death suggest that his demise may not have been accidental. I'm engaged by Miss Vane to examine those events. I require your cooperation. Bletchley cleared his throat. Mr. Wolfe, we have already spoken to the police. I'm not the police, Wolfe said. You may find that distinction either reassuring or inconvenient. Tarp said, What exactly do you want from us? Attention, Wolfe said, and honesty, though I do not insist on the latter if the former is sufficient. Sloane smiled faintly. Paula sat still, her hands folded, her gaze steady. Clara did not look at any of them. Wolfe turned his head slightly. Archie. I got up and went to the side table where Fritz had arranged a small setting. A cloth, 6 glasses, a decanter, and, placed to the right of an empty plate, a knife. Not the Vane knife, but close enough to pass at a glance. Ivory handle, narrow blade, clean. I carried the tray to a low table in front of Wolfe's desk and set it down carefully. We will conduct a simple exercise, Wolfe said. You will observe the table. You will not move. You will not speak unless addressed. Mr. Goodwin will adjust nothing without my instruction. They looked at the table. All of them. I watched their eyes. Paula's were direct. Bletchley's flicked once and returned. Tarp's measured. Sloane's lingered. Wolfe said, Observe the knife. They did. Wolfe let a few seconds pass, enough to let the room settle into the act of looking. Then he said, in the same tone he might have used to ask for salt, The knife is no longer on the table. No one moved. It was almost impressive. If he had fired a gun, he might have got less reaction. And they held themselves in place, each one of them as if the words had been a test they had already prepared for. Wolfe said nothing. He let the silence stretch until it began to hum. Then he said, Mr. Bletchley, do you see the knife? Yes, Bletchley said quickly. Miss Bletchley? Yes. Mr. Tarp? Yes. Mr. Sloane? Yes. Miss Vane? Clara hesitated a fraction. Yes, she said. Wolfe inclined his head. Very good. Mr. Goodwin, remove the knife. I stepped forward, picked up the knife and slipped it into my pocket. Wolfe said, Now the knife is no longer on the table. There was a shift then, subtle but real. Not in bodies, but in eyes. They moved just enough to register absence. The space where the knife had been was suddenly larger than it had any right to be. Do you see the knife? Wolfe asked. No, Bletchley said. Oh no, Paula said. No, Tarp said. No, Sloane said. No, Clara said. Excellent, Wolfe said. We have established that you can all perceive presence and absence when they are unambiguous. Let us now consider ambiguity. He nodded to me. I took the knife from my pocket and, while they watched, placed it back on the table. Then I stepped away. Wolfe said, The knife is no longer on the table. This time the reaction came before the answer. It was small, it was almost nothing. But it was there. Paula's eyes flicked, not to the knife, but to Sloane. Sloane did not look at the knife at all. He looked at Paula. Tarp's gaze went to the table, then to Wolfe, then back again. Bletchley stared straight ahead, as if refusing to participate. Clara looked at the knife, then at Wolfe, then at me. Do you see the knife? Wolfe asked. I said, yes, Paula said. But there was a trace of something in it now. Yes, Bletchley said. Yes, Tarp said. Sloane waited a beat too long. Yes, he said. Clara said, yes. Wolfe nodded once. Thank you, that will suffice. He turned to me. Archie, return the knife to its place? I did. Wolfe leaned back, his eyes moving from one face to another, not missing anything now. Last night, he said, Mr. Vane asserted that a knife was absent when it was present. That assertion created a moment of doubt in each of you. You have all denied that doubt today, except Miss Vane, who admitted it. That denial is natural. It is also revealing. No one spoke. Wolfe continued. More revealing still is what occurred just now. When I repeated Mr. Vane's assertion, you responded not to the fact of the knife, but to each other. Son, your eyes betrayed you. Tarp said, This is absurd. No, Wolfe said, it is precise. Sloane said, You think you saw something? I do not think, Wolfe said. I saw. He turned his gaze fully to Sloane. Mr. Sloane, you did not look at the knife when I declared it absent. You looked at Miss Bletchley. Sloane's smile thinned. So? So you were not verifying the presence of the knife, Wolfe said. You were verifying her reaction. That proves nothing, Sloane said. It proves that you expected her to react, Wolfe said. And that expectation has a basis. Paula said sharply, This is ridiculous. Is it? Wolfe said. Then why did you look at him when I spoke? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Wolfe's voice did not change. Because last night, when Mr. Vane made his assertion, you did not look at the knife. You looked at Mr. Sloane, and he looked at you. And in that exchange, something passed between you that Mr. Vane observed. Silence. Wolfe let it settle, then said, Mr. Vane's error was not in his perception of the knife. It was in his perception of you. He believed one of you had moved the knife. In fact, one of you had moved something else entirely. Information. He leaned forward slightly. And the other knew it. No one spoke, which was exactly what Wolfe wanted. Silence is a better solvent than argument. It dissolves pretenses without leaving residue. Paula Bletchley was the first to recover enough to try. You're suggesting, what? That Mr. Sloane and I exchanged a glance? That's hardly a crime. No, Wolfe said. It is not. But it is an event, and events properly arranged form patterns. Tarp shifted in his chair. This is a parlor trick, he said. We came here to answer questions about Julian Vane's death, not to be accused of looking at one another. You came here, Wolfe said, because you are uncertain what Mr. Vane discovered. That uncertainty persists. I intend to resolve it. Bletchley cleared his throat again, a habit I was beginning to consider structural. Mr. Wolfe, if you have an accusation, make it. Otherwise? Otherwise you will leave, Wolfe said. You are free to do so. But if you leave now, you will carry with you the knowledge that Mr. Vane was about to expose something, and that I am near to identifying it. That knowledge will not be restful. Bletchley closed his mouth. Wolfe turned his attention back to Paula. Miss Bletchley, you left the table during dinner. Yes, she said. For wine. Indeed, a practical act, and yet it created a moment in which you were not under direct observation by all present. When you returned, you resumed your seat. At that moment, Mr. Vane made his assertion regarding the knife. You looked not at the knife, but at Mr. Sloane. Why? I didn't, she said. You did, Wolfe said. Mr. Sloane confirms it. Sloane said nothing. Wolfe continued, Mr. Sloane, you described Miss Bletchley as the only one who moved. You observed her closely. Why? Sloane leaned back slightly, as if considering whether to play this hand or fold it. Because movement is informative, he said. I told Mr. Goodwin that. You told him, Wolfe said, that movement invites interpretation. What interpretation did you make? That she was either unconcerned or concerned, Sloane said. And which did you decide? Wolfe asked. I hadn't decided, Sloane said. That is untrue, Wolfe said calmly. You had decided enough to watch her rather than the knife. You expected her to reveal something. Sloane's smile disappeared. You're stretching. No, Wolfe said. I am compressing. Let us proceed. He shifted his gaze to Tarp. Mr. Tarp, you deny any moment of uncertainty when Mr. Vane asserted the knife's absence. That denial is implausible. Therefore, it is intentional. Why? Tarp's jaw tightened. Because I saw the knife. No, Wolfe said. Because you needed to assert that you saw the knife. The distinction is critical. You needed to establish that your perception was unimpaired. And why would I need to do that? Tarp demanded. Because if your perception were questioned, Wolfe said, other perceptions might be examined. Perceptions concerning documents, as to shipments, contracts, matters within your purview. Tarp's eyes flickered. It was small, but it was enough. Clara inhaled sharply. Wolfe continued as if noting a minor detail. Mr. Vane's business involved importation. Documentation is essential. Errors or alterations in such documentation can be profitable or disastrous. Bletchley said, Are you accusing Mr. Tarp of fraud? I'm observing that he has motive to resist scrutiny, Wolfe said, as do others. He turned back to Paula. Miss Bletchley, you manage correspondence and accounts. You would be aware of discrepancies. You would also be in a position to conceal or correct them. I have done neither, she said, but there was less certainty in it now. Perhaps, Wolfe said, or perhaps you discovered something and chose to act upon it. Sloane spoke. Hey, this is getting closer to something, he said, but not close enough. Wolfe inclined his head. Then allow me to approach further. He folded his hands. Mr. Vane conducted an experiment. He asserted the absence of an object that was present. He observed your reactions. He identified a connection between two of you. He intended to expose that connection today. He looked directly at Sloane. You, he said, and Miss Bletchley. Sloane did not move. Paula said, No. Yes, Wolfe said. Not necessarily as accomplices in a single act, but as participants in a shared understanding. You knew something about her, and she knew that you knew. That's absurd, Paula said, but her voice had lost its edge. Wolfe ignored her. Mr. Sloane, you are a consultant. Your function is to move between interests, to identify opportunities, to exploit them, as you are newly introduced to Mr. Vane's circle. Yet you had already identified Miss Bletchley as significant. Sloane said, anyone with eyes could see she runs the office. Not merely runs it, Wolfe said. Controls information within it. Information that could be altered, delayed, or redirected. Clara said, Paula. Paula shook her head. No. Wolfe said, Mr. Vane believed the knife had been replaced. That belief may have been mistaken, but it led him to examine replacement in a broader sense. Replacement of documents, substitution of figures, alteration of records. Tarp said, this is speculation. It is deduction, Wolfe said, and it is nearly complete. He leaned forward. Miss Bletchley, he said, you discovered discrepancies in Mr. Tarp's contracts. You did not report them. Instead, you began to adjust records to compensate, perhaps to protect the firm, perhaps to protect yourself. Mr. Sloane discovered this. He recognized its value. He approached you. Paula's hands tightened. He offered you a choice, Wolfe said. Continue as you were, under his observation, or expose yourself. You chose to continue. He gained leverage. Mr. Vane, through his experiment, perceived the tension between you. He did not know the details, but he knew there was something to expose. Sloane said quietly, You're guessing. Wolfe shook his head. No, I'm observing consequences. He turned to Clara. Your brother told you he would expose someone, that someone knew it, that someone had reason to prevent it. Clara whispered, Paula. Paula shook her head again, but tears had started in her eyes. Wolfe said, But Miss Bletchley did not kill your brother. She lacked the resolve for such direct action. Mr. Tarp had motive, but not the immediate trigger. Mr. Bletchley had neither insight nor initiative. He looked at Sloane. That leaves you, he said. Sloane met his gaze. For a moment, there was nothing in his face. Then something settled. You have an elegant theory, he said, but no proof. On the contrary, Wolfe said, I have your statement. My statement, Sloane said. Yes, Wolfe said. You told Mr. Goodwin that Mr. Vane was not the only one conducting experiments. That was not an observation. It was a declaration. You had already acted. Sloane's eyes hardened. Wolfe continued, You recognized that Mr. Vane intended to expose Miss Bletchley. That exposure would eliminate your leverage. Therefore, you arranged his death. And a push in a stairwell requires no weapon, leaves little trace, and can be mistaken for accident. Sloane smiled again, but it was different now. You're very sure. I am, Wolfe said. And what will you do with that certainty? Sloane asked. Wolfe's voice was mild. Mr. Goodwin. I was already at the phone. I'd called Kramer 10 minutes earlier, on Wolfe's nod, and I could hear footsteps in the hall now. Sloane heard them too. He stood, not abruptly, just enough to acknowledge the shift. Well, he said, it seems the experiment concludes. The door opened and Kramer came in with 2 men. Evening, he said. We interrupt? Not at all, Wolfe said. You arrive at the appropriate moment. Kramer looked at Sloane. You want to tell me about this morning? Sloane looked at him, then at Wolfe, then at Paula, who could not meet his eyes, but he shrugged slightly. No, he said. I don't think I do. Kramer nodded to his men. As they moved in, I watched Sloane's face. There was no panic in it. Just a recognition that the table had been set, the pieces arranged, and the move he had made had finally been seen. Wolfe leaned back in his chair, as if the matter had resolved itself in a satisfactory manner. Clara sat very still, and on the small table in front of Wolfe's desk, the knife lay exactly where it had been placed, having never left, and yet having told us everything that had. Kramer took Sloane without fuss, which is the way he prefers it when he's certain enough not to need noise. The 2 men with him closed in, one on each side, and Sloane went along as if he had expected the cue and was satisfied it had come on time. Charge? Kramer asked, glancing at Wolfe. Suspicion of homicide, Wolfe said. You will, of course, require corroboration. I usually do, Kramer said. He looked at Paula Bletchley. You may have something to add. She didn't answer at once. Her hands were still folded, but the neatness had gone out of them. She looked at Sloane as if trying to decide whether he was still there or had already become something else. She said, then stopped. Sloane said, don't, without turning his head. Kramer said, Miss, I advise you to reconsider that. Paula's eyes went to Clara, then to Wolfe. Wolfe did not move. He never does at moments like that. He leaves the decision where it belongs and watches to see what it reveals. He came to me, Paula said finally, about a month ago. Sloane closed his eyes briefly, not in regret, just in acknowledgement. He said he had noticed irregularities, Paula went on, in shipments, in invoices, small things at first. I told him they were errors. He said they weren't. Were they? Kramer asked. She shook her head. No. Kramer looked at Tarp. Tarp's face had gone hard in a way that suggested he had reached the point where denial becomes an investment too costly to maintain. You want to tell me about that? Kramer said. Tarp said nothing. Paula continued, as if she had found a line and was determined to follow it. I found them first, the discrepancies. They were small, but they added up. I brought them to Mr. Vane. He said he would look into it. He didn't tell me what he found. After that, Mr. Sloane came to me. And? Kramer said. He said he knew, Paula said. He said he could prove it. He said that if I cooperated, that he would keep it quiet until I could, resolve it without damage. Resolve it how? Kramer asked. By correcting the records, she said. Gradually, quietly. And did you? Kramer said. Yes, she said. I began to. I thought I could fix it. Fix it, Kramer repeated. She nodded. I thought I could restore the accounts without exposing Mr. Tarp, without exposing the firm. And Mr. Sloane? Kramer said. He watched, Paula said. He advised. He said it was in everyone's interest. Sloane opened his eyes. It was, he said. Kramer ignored him. And last night? Paula swallowed. I didn't know what Julian had discovered. When he said the knife was missing, I thought... She stopped. You thought what? Kramer said. That he knew, she said. That he was testing us. That he was about to say it. And Mr. Sloane? Kramer said. Paula looked at him. He knew I thought that, she said. When I came back with the wine, I looked at him. He looked at me. We both understood. What did you understand? Kramer asked. That Julian was going to expose everything, she said. And this morning? Kramer said. I didn't see what happened this morning, Paula said. I swear it. Kramer nodded slowly, then turned to Sloane. You want to change your mind? Sloane shook his head. No. Suit yourself, Kramer said. He nodded to his men, and they moved Sloane toward the door. Sloane paused once just before crossing the threshold and looked back at Wolfe. You set a good table, he said. I do, Wolfe said. Sloane gave a small nod and went out. Kramer lingered a moment. You'll come down later and give me your version, he said to me. I always do, I said. He left, taking Tarp with him after a brief exchange that didn't need words. Bletchley stood, sat again, then stood once more as if uncertain whether the floor would hold him. This is, he began, then stopped. Clara said, You should go, Leonard. He nodded, grateful for instruction, and left without another word. Paula remained seated. The room had emptied around her, leaving her in the center of something that had shifted from possibility to fact. I didn't mean, she said. No one ever does, Wolfe said. She looked at him. I thought I could fix it. Yes, Wolfe said. That is a common error. One attempts to correct a deviation by introducing another. The system becomes more complex, not less. I didn't kill him, she said. I know, Wolfe said. She nodded once, as if that mattered, and then she stood. Clara rose as well, and they looked at each other, and something passed between them that had nothing to do with knives or contracts. I'm sorry, Paula said. Clara did not answer. She did not need to. Paula left. The door closed. The house settled. I went to the small table and picked up the knife, turned it in my hand, then set it down again in the same place. Wolfe watched me. Well, he said. Well, I said. It never left the table. No, Wolfe said, but it altered the arrangement of minds. That's a trick, I said. It is a demonstration, Wolfe said. The distinction is important. I went back to my desk and sat. You really think Vane believed it was gone? I think he believed something was, Wolfe said. The knife provided a convenient fiction. It allowed him to observe without revealing his true concern. And he saw Paula and Sloane, I said. As he saw a connection, Wolfe said. He may not have known its nature. He knew enough. And Sloane knew that he knew, I said. Yes, Wolfe said, and acted accordingly. I leaned back. You ever think about doing something simpler? No, Wolfe said. Me neither, I said. Fritz appeared in the doorway. Dinner is ready, he said. Wolfe's eyes shifted. Not much, but enough. The case was over. Appetite resumed its rightful place. We went to the dining room. The table was set with precision, nothing out of place, nothing pretending to be absent when it was present. As we sat, Wolfe said, Archie, human beings are remarkably adept at ignoring what is before them, provided they have reason to do so. Yeah, I said, and when they can't ignore it, they move something else. He nodded. Or someone. I reached for the bread. Ours, and sometimes, I said, all it takes is a knife that never goes anywhere. Wolfe lifted his glass. On the contrary, he said, it went exactly where it was needed. I had to give him that. The next morning began the way most mornings in the brownstone do, with routine asserting itself as if nothing had happened to justify deviation. Wolfe was in the plant rooms from 9 to 11, communing with orchids that neither lied nor improvised, and I was at my desk trying to convince a stack of correspondence that it deserved attention. At 10:30, the phone rang. I picked it up. Goodwin. Kramer, he said. You awake? Barely, I told him. You got something? I've got a statement, he said. And a problem. Those usually travel together, I said. Which one first? Sloane talked, Kramer said. Not a full confession, but enough. He admits to confronting Vane in the stairwell. Says they argued, says Vane lost his footing. And you believe him? I asked. I believe he's telling it in a way that suits him, Kramer said. But it lines up with what we've got. And the problem? I said. Tarp, Kramer said. He's starting to remember things he'd rather forget. Looks like your boy Wolfe was right about the contracts. There's a trail, not big, but enough. Good, I said. That should keep him busy. It will, Kramer said. But there's something else. Miss Bletchley's statement. She says Vane had already confronted Tarp earlier in the week. Quietly. No witnesses. No record. I leaned back. That changes the timing. Yeah, Kramer said. Means Vane knew about the discrepancies before the dinner. Then the dinner wasn't about discovering anything, I said. It was about confirming. That's what I'm thinking, Kramer said. Your boss see that coming? He sees a lot of things, I said. Some of them even arrive on time. Tell him thanks, Kramer said. And tell him he still annoys me. I'll put it in writing, I said. I hung up and sat there a minute, letting it settle. Then I went upstairs. Wolfe was in the plant rooms, of course. I waited until 11, then met him as he descended, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and satisfaction. "Well, Archie," he said. "Sloane admits to the argument," I said. "Calls it an accident. Kramer calls it convenient." "Both are correct," Wolfe said. "And Tarp's in deeper than he said," I added. "There's a trail." Vane had already confronted him before the dinner. Wolfe stopped at the bottom of the stairs. "Ah," he said. "That is significant." "Yeah," I said. "Means the dinner wasn't about finding out. It was about watching." Wolfe nodded slowly. Mr. Vane had already identified the irregularities. He had confronted Mr. Tarp privately. The dinner was not an investigation. It was a confirmation of relationships. "And leverage," I said. "He wanted to see who was connected to who." "Precisely," Wolfe said. "He suspected that Mr. Tarp was not acting alone. He sought to identify any accomplice or beneficiary." "And he found Paula and Sloane looking at each other," I said. "He found a connection," Wolfe corrected. "He interpreted it as complicity. In fact, it was asymmetrical. Miss Bletchley was attempting correction. Mr. Sloane was exploiting both her and Mr. Tarp. And Vane planned to expose it all," I said. "Yes," Wolfe said, "'cause he misjudged only the immediacy of Mr. Sloane's response." "He thought he had until morning," I said. "He had until the stairwell," Wolfe said. We went to the office. I sat at my desk. Wolfe took his chair. "You know," I said, "if Vane had just gone to the police instead of staging a dinner, he might still be alive." "Possibly," Wolfe said, "but he would have learned less." "Yeah," I said, "and we'd have had less to do." Wolfe made a small sound that might have been agreement. There was a knock at the door. I got up and answered it. Clara Vane stood there. She looked different, not in any obvious way, but as if something had settled into place inside her, not comfortably, but firmly. "May I come in?" she said. "Of course," I said. She came to the office. Wolfe inclined his head. "Miss Vane," he said. "I've spoken with the police," she said. "They told me what Mr. Sloane said, and about Mr. Tarp." "Yes," Wolfe said. She stood for a moment, then sat, as if deciding that standing would not improve anything. "My brother knew," she said. "Before the dinner." "Yes," Wolfe said. "And he chose to test them anyway." "Yes." "Why?" she asked. Wolfe regarded her. "Because he wished to understand not only the facts, but the structure," he said. "Facts are static. Structure reveals dynamics." "He wanted to see who would align with whom," she said. "Yes." "And it cost him his life," she said. "Yes," Wolfe said. She was silent a moment. Then she said, "Was he wrong?" "In what sense?" Wolfe asked. "In doing it that way," she said. "In provoking them." Wolfe considered. "He was not wrong in principle," he said. "He was imprudent in execution, but he underestimated the urgency of his adversary." "He thought he was in control," she said. "Yes," Wolfe said. "He was not." She nodded slowly. "And now?" "Now," Wolfe said, "the immediate danger has been removed. The irregularities will be addressed by the appropriate authorities. The structure has been altered." "And the firm?" she asked. "That depends on what you choose to do," Wolfe said. She looked at him. "What would you advise?" Wolfe's eyes flicked to me, then back to her. "I do not advise on business," he said, "but I will observe that concealment is a temporary solution. Clarity, though painful, is durable." She let that sit. "Thank you," she said. She rose. I went with her to the door. "Mr. Goodwin," she said, "your employer is precise." "That's one word for it," I said. "And you?" she said. I keep him from floating away, I said. She almost smiled. Then she went. I closed the door and went back to the office. Wolfe was looking at the small table where the knife still lay, exactly where we had left it the night before. "You're not going to keep that, are you?" I said. "It is not mine," Wolfe said. "You could call it a souvenir," I said. "I do not collect objects," Wolfe said. "I collect conclusions." "Less dusting," I said. He ignored that. "Archie," he said, "what is the essential lesson of this matter?" "That if you tell people something's missing, they'll show you what they're afraid of losing," I said. Wolfe shook his head slightly. "No, that is a tactic. The lesson is that absence is often less significant than the belief in absence. It is the belief that compels action." "Yeah," I said. "And sometimes that action is a push down a staircase." "Indeed," Wolfe said. I got up, took the knife from the table and carried it to the hall. "Where are you going?" Wolfe asked. "To return it," I said. "It belongs to someone who's not here to argue about it." "Very well," Wolfe said. I paused at the door. "You want to say anything poetic about it before I go?" Wolfe considered. "Yes," he said. "A tool that does not move may nonetheless cut deeply." I nodded. "I'll put that on a card." I went out, leaving Wolfe in his chair, the brownstone settling back into its proper silence, and the case of the knife that never left the table closed with the quiet click of something understood. The following afternoon I returned the knife. It seemed like the sort of errand that ought to be unnecessary, but in our line of work, loose ends have a way of tightening themselves around your ankles if you ignore them. Fritz wrapped it in a cloth with more care than he had shown most of our clients, and I took it uptown to Clara Vane. She received me in the same apartment where the whole thing had begun to make sense, which is to say it still looked orderly enough to pretend nothing had gone wrong. The dining table had been cleared, the chairs pushed in, the illusion of normalcy restored with the precision of someone who understands that appearances are not solutions, but can be useful while you're working toward one. "I brought this," I said, unwrapping the knife. She looked at it for a long moment before taking it. "It seems smaller," she said. "They usually do," I told her, "once they've done their job." She turned it in her hand, then set it down on the table, not in its old place, but in the center, as if she preferred not to assign it a role again. "I spoke with the firm this morning," she said, "with Leonard and with the auditors." "That sounds like a long day," I said. "It will be a longer one," she said. "But it will be honest." "That's a good start," I said. She nodded. Mr. Wolfe was right. Concealment only postpones collapse. I intend to avoid both. "That's ambitious," I said. "It is necessary," she said. We stood there a moment, the knife between us. No longer evidence, not quite an object either. Something that had been used to expose a weakness and had succeeded too well. "Do you think my brother understood what he was risking?" she asked. "Yes," I said. But I don't think he understood how quickly the risk would come due." She accepted that without argument. "He always believed he had time," she said. "Most people do," I said. "Until they don't." She gave a small, tired smile. "Thank you, Mr. Goodwin." "You're welcome," I said. "Try to keep your tables boring for a while." "I will try," she said. I left her there with the knife and the work ahead of her, and went back downtown. The brownstone was as it should be when I got there. Quiet, controlled, and faintly disapproving of anything that threatened to disrupt it. Wolfe was in the office, reading, which meant he had already decided the matter was concluded and was now restoring his internal balance. "Well?" he said without looking up. "Knife delivered," I said. "Now, client determined to rebuild civilization one ledger at a time." "Commendable," Wolfe said. "She asked if her brother knew what he was risking," I said. "And?" Wolfe said. "I told her he did," I said. just not how fast it would catch up with him. Wolfe closed his book and regarded me. "An acceptable answer," he said. I sat down. "You ever think about that?" I said. "Timing?" "Constantly," Wolfe said. "It is the most neglected element in human reasoning." "People think in terms of what?" I said. "Not when." "Precisely," Wolfe said. Mr. Vane understood what was occurring. He failed to account for when his adversary would act. "And Sloane didn't make that mistake," I said. "No," Wolfe said. "He understood that delay would be fatal to him. So he moved first," I said. "Yes," Wolfe said, "and thereby ensured his own exposure." I grinned. "Fools, you make it sound tidy." "It is tidy," Wolfe said. "The untidiness lies in the consequences, not the logic." Fritz appeared in the doorway. "Dinner will be served in 20 minutes, he said. Wolfe inclined his head, already shifting his attention to matters of greater personal importance. I stayed where I was a moment longer. "You know," I said, "for something that never left the table, that knife caused a lot of movement." Wolfe allowed himself a small adjustment of expression that might have been approval. "It is often the fixed point," he said, "that reveals motion most clearly." "Yeah," I said. "Everything else spins around it." "Indeed," Wolfe said. "And when the spinning becomes too rapid, something breaks." "In this case, a neck," I said. Wolfe frowned slightly. "Your phrasing is inelegant." "Accurate, though," I said, for he let that pass. "Archie," he said, "what remains?" "Paperwork," I said. "Kramer's going to want your statement dressed up in something he can show a judge without blushing." "I do not blush," Wolfe said. "No," I said. "That's my department." He picked up his book again. "Then perform your function," he said. I went to my desk and started writing it up, the way it had happened and the way it made sense, which aren't always the same thing but come close enough when Wolfe's been involved. As I worked, I kept thinking about that moment at the table. The first one, not ours. The second or two when a man says something is missing, and everyone decides whether to believe him, whether to check, whether to pretend they already know the answer. That's where it starts. Not with the push in the stairwell, not with the contracts, but not even with the first small adjustment in a ledger. It starts with a choice about what to see and what to ignore. By the time Fritz announced dinner, I had it all down in a form that would satisfy Kramer and not insult Wolfe, which is about as close to perfection as I aim for. We sat at the table. Everything was in its place. Nothing pretending to be absent. Nothing waiting to be noticed. Wolfe lifted his fork, considered his plate, and said, almost to himself, "The appetite for concealment is exceeded only by the appetite for certainty." I reached for the bread. "And both can get you into trouble," I said. He glanced at me. "Only if you indulge them unwisely." "Yeah," I said. "Good thing we never do that." Wolfe ignored me, which was his way of agreeing as far as he was willing to go. Dinner proceeded. The brownstone held, so the case was done. And somewhere uptown, on a table that had seen more than it should have, a small knife rested quietly, having never gone anywhere at all, and having taken everyone exactly where they needed to go.